Welcome to Caching Waves. I needed to make this update for Bitcoin because I've shown all these breakout potential trades, and I want to show you what would tend to happen here if those breakouts happen and how I would adjust this count. I mentioned I need to update this, and I'm going to show you that now. And reason being is I have this as 3 nested 1-2s. I don't like doing ultra nested 1-2s, but the possibility is there. That's all I'm saying. The possibility is there that we have 4 nested 1-2s. And it's very important to realize these because if we look at previous bull markets, you can see how they tend to happen. They just keep going. You can see on the micro here, compare it to this side over here. You just get 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 after one after the other, and you just don't get a chance to buy in. And that's the potential I'm suggesting. And the way that would happen is we break all-time highs shortly, and we're in price discovery, which means we can get pretty extreme moves because there's no resistance to stop us, right? So I just want to make that clear, and I want you to show you how that can happen in previous bull markets, as you can see. As we got 1-2s, 1-2s all the way up. 1-2, 1-2. There's a 1-2 here, 1-2 here, 1-2 here, and then we just launch. So those of you that think it can't happen, I would advise you look previously at history and don't just negate this as impossible. Everything's impossible till it happens. I've been through all the bull and bear markets, and I've seen everything, so I'm open to every possibility. And I tend to take the risks when they're available, but I control my risk with only 1% risk per trade. So I just want to make that aware. So how would these be 4 nested 1-2s? So our first one was in blue. Then we had our second 1-2. I suggested yesterday that this was our third 1-2, but I went back and looked at it just because of where all those altcoins I just posted for you, their trade setups are, and how this can change. And the move overnight is what really made me consider this option. Bitcoin recovered very quickly, and I was expecting it to at least stop at the 618. If you look at the lower time frames, I was expecting it to drop from here, and it just kept recovering. So we have to pay attention to the evidence available and not let our bias, take us over. Because how frustrating would it be if you're waiting for this and it just does this and keeps going to all-time highs, and it's just going. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying that's an option right here. That's all I'm saying. So the way I would count this, and again, I don't love it because it doesn't hit fib targets the way I'd like it, but it doesn't break any rules. It's just guidelines. And sometimes when these things happen, it's the least probable thing, but the thing that's still valid that happens. So if we go on linear scale, you can see we've broken out of the pitchfork. And what can happen is we just retest it and go. And how I would relabel this, if you remember me when I was trying to consider this as an ABC, when we got that trade long and we were looking for downside after, we had the direction correct, but originally I had this labeled as a triangle. And it works with this count if 5 waves are complete up here. If it ends up being a flat rather than a triangle, but we'd expect this move back to the 4th wave. So we have to say if we don't get that move, then what's the count? And that's where I would suggest it's 4 nested 1-2s. And this would end up being a triangle. Just to ignore the green count right now. This would be our 1, 2, 3. That's how I can get 5 at the end of the triangle. We then either make a expanded flat or a diagonal where this is our 5th. So our third would have come to the 1.236. and we got our fifth wave right here. And that would mean this is the 1, 2. So that would be the scenario I'm talking about, where Bitcoin absolutely runs and all these altcoins break out as well. Like within the next day or two. Now, the altcoins will still break out, in my point of view. If we do make this correction, it would just take another week or two, and we'd be making some sideways corrections. So if this is going to break out, and this is our 1, 2, 1, 2, and we have 4 of them, like in previous bull markets, and we go parabolic, we'd be looking for a retracement level up off just these small 5 waves up. And let me add something else on log scale. If you recall, on log scale, when I'm looking for nested 1-2s, I look between the 618 and the 1-to-1 extension. This because this is either a really extended 5th wave or it's another 1-2. And if you see that in red, the 618, that is the extension of this wave 1 potentially off the 2. So we'd look between the 618 and the 1-to-1 for another 1-2, and we're right at that zone, as you can see. So it is completely valid. I just want to make you aware of this scenario. I'm not trying to predict the future. I'm just aware of the paths that are possible, so I'm paying attention to those. So this would be our new 1-2. So in that case, we would want to protect this 4th wave. Anything below that, and probability shift that this was the 5th wave top. What else do we know in previous bull markets? We tend to make running flats rather than ABCs. And the fact that we came so high here and didn't stop at the 618 and dump shows strength in this market. So what I'm considering going on here, so I'm not in Bitcoin right now. I prefer to trade the alts because they will outperform. But what I would suggest is pay attention what happens here in Bitcoin. Because if this is our A and we grind up here for our B and a C wave down, this should get protected on a running flat and we just go. Now, if I were trading this, I would put my stop just past the 4th to allow just a regular flat to play out, which is still bullish. But just pay very close attention to what happens here. Now, how we fail is if we make an ABC down, we try and push to the upside, but we don't get something impulsive. We get something more like a sideways correction that is equal in time to this wave, but we don't make any momentum. And then we drop down, and this becomes a larger A wave, come up, B, C, and we make that scenario I mentioned to you in the previous video. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. If we just go, that's going to be very painful for people that are waiting for this retracement. So that's why I'm very open-minded when it comes to Elliott Wave, because like I said, a lot of times the least probable but valid thing happens, and it screws over a lot of people. So I hope you found this valuable. Again, what I'm looking for is just potential that this could be a 1-2, 1-2. We see our invalidation points. We know what we're looking for, a running flat up here. And if we don't get that and we start to fail, then I would anticipate this is our second move. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. That's it for this one. I'm going to keep going over those altcoin setups in case we take off on everything.